Before I get into today's episode about Kyler Murray, I just want to let you guys know that it's sponsored by SeatGeek. If you'd like to save $20, all you have to do is enter the promo code JKS if it's your first time using SeatGeek, and they'll take $20 off your purchase just like that. It's a pretty great deal, and they have some pretty great stuff on there. I mean, obviously, tickets for sporting events and for concerts and things of that nature. But also, one thing to do is to have the system of letting you know if what you're getting is a good deal, a bad deal, or an okay deal. So that way you kind of know if you're getting ripped off. And again, if it's your first time purchase, you can enter the promo code JKS and you'll save $20 off. If it's something you're interested in, the link will be in the description below. And anyways, back to your regularly scheduled video. So Kyler Murray in his second preseason game went just 3 for 8 for 12 yards. So you know, it's over. He's a bust now, and the Cardinals should probably just cut him because there's no way he's going to be good, right? Okay, I'm being sarcastic. I mean, the reality is people just need to calm down. It's the preseason. People are going to overreact, but you know, I didn't really see anything that I didn't already feel like I knew about the Cardinals. I mean, really watching this game, I didn't really see too much that I didn't already fear about Kyler Murray and about the Cardinals. I mean, really, what did we see from that game? That the offensive line is poor? We kind of already knew that going into the league. I mean, they have probably a bottom 3 offensive line in the NFL. The main reason I was against the Kyler Murray pick actually had very little to do with Kyler Murray. I think Kyler Murray is great, but I just thought the Cardinals had too many holes to try to get a quarterback this early. I personally am more of a fan of what the Browns did, where they built a good team and then got the quarterback. I think it's a lot easier to be successful that way than getting a good quarterback but then trying to build a team around them, because sometimes that is pretty difficult. I'm certainly not going to let just 8 preseason games really impact my opinion one way or the other. You know, I'm not going to just say, oh, look, Kyler Murray is a bust now. I mean, that's just stupid. But anyways, what's going to happen is it's going to be a play action to the top half of the screen, and then they're also going to have Larry Fitzgerald big as though he's going to be running up the middle, but instead he's then going to break down to the bottom half of the screen, and Murray will also run down to the bottom half of the screen and kind of try to throw on the run to hit Fitzgerald. However, one thing you'll see is that Oakland appeared to be pretty ready for a play like this, and that's actually one thing that you can clearly tell when watching the Oakland Raiders play last week, is that they were ready to win this game. You know, they were changing up play calls. They weren't just running, you know, cover 3 zone all game. They were actually doing different things. And I think part of the reason for that is Gruden is kind of trying to create a winning culture with the Oakland Raiders, so he's kind of trying to tell them that, like, hey guys, we gotta win every game, which I think does make sense when you are a team that has been losing for a while. But anyways, so now Murray's going to have to run a lot more than he would have had to just with the way the play was drawn up. Usually you kind of want him to have a ton of space. And you know, a lot of times when you run plays like this, Murray would have time to get his feet planted and not really have to make a throw on the run sometimes. But when your opposing team is ready for plays like this, when someone makes a good play and rushes in and kind of disrupts this play, well then you have to make a much tougher throw in a much tougher angle. So Murray does have to run a lot further back all the way into his own end zone. But if you see, there still is some space where, you know, Murray could make this throw. Fitzgerald is open, but Murray's throw is just a little bit too high. And now that wasn't a disastrous throw by any means. I mean, if that's 6 inches lower, it's probably caught. And honestly, sometimes just where it's at, every now and then Larry Fitzgerald does make that catch. So I'm not going to get mad at him too much for it. But there's a couple of things to talk about in that play. You know, first off, it could have been a better throw. You know, one of the things that we always hear about with Murray is the fact that, well, he doesn't need a great offensive line because he can throw on the run so well and he can move so well. But I don't care who you are, it's tougher to throw on a run than it is with your feet planted. I mean, that's just common sense. But it also goes to show that if teams are preparing for some of these designed rollouts, and you know, the edge rushers are being smart and being willing to go to the outside, making sure they're not giving up containment and making some of these good plays, then that could definitely hurt Kyler Murray in an actual game. I mean, if it can hurt him in a preseason, it can hurt him in an actual game. I'm sure the Cardinals can try to figure out a way to counteract that, but I'm just saying, you know, there is now an extra challenge. It's not an extra challenge we didn't know before this preseason game. We knew it going in. But I do think this preseason game kind of did a good job of displaying my potential worries about the Cardinals' offense next season. There's also this play where it's going to be a cover 1 hole, and the Cardinals have a receiver running that route right there, which can be a great route to beat a cover 1 hole. You're eventually going to get outside of the numbers, and you know, a cover 1 hole is designed to take away the middle of the field, so if your receiver can win its one-on-one matchup, this can absolutely be a good route to throw to. And so for Murray, he knows all this, so he's going to take a couple steps back and try to make a throw in that direction. As you see, his receiver does have some separation. I mean, that's a good amount of separation. That's what you want. One thing I didn't love about that throw from Murray is it was kind of more on a line than it really had to be. He could have put some more air under it, which would have kind of allowed the receiver to go faster or slower to try to adjust to the ball. But also, more importantly, he just misses a throw. I mean, again, that could kind of just be a timing thing more than anything. I mean, that's just the kind of thing that you do try to work on in the preseason, you know, go full speed, see if we can kind of connect on some of these routes. That is the kind of thing that is more difficult when you're playing with a guy who you've only played in a couple of games with. He's got to get the timing down. I wouldn't really be too worried about that one. You know, put a little bit more air under it, do it a little bit slower now that you know exactly how fast your receiver is. You'll get the timing down. It just takes some time. But again, that kind of just goes to show how silly this preseason thing is, because if he connects on that route, then instead of going 3 for 8, now he's 4 for 8. and they probably pick up around 25 yards or so in that play. So now you're talking about, instead of 3 for 8 for 12 yards, then it would be 4 for 8 with 40 yards. And while that's not great, it's not terrible either. People would say, oh, okay, that's alright, I guess. And if he completed like one more pass, then all of a sudden he's the GOAT quarterback, so that's just kind of the situation. That's the preseason. With these small sample sizes, people are going to overreact, and that's just the way it works. But yeah, there was also this next play where once again it's going to be a cover one hole. What the Cardinals are doing is they're going to have those two receivers run those two routes right there. So specifically, the deep route is the one you're going to want to take a look at, as that is definitely a route that could get open as long as the safety doesn't go up to the top half of the screen. It's simply something for Murray to keep an eye on, and he is going to look up in that direction and make a throw in that direction. As you see, once again, there's a little bit of separation, this time a lot less separation, but there still is some. This is a tight window that maybe he can fit the ball through, and it's just going to be a little bit too far. And also, Fitzgerald, maybe every now and then he comes down with that play. He wasn't able to make it on that one, but again, that kind of goes back to what I'm just talking about. If Fitzgerald finds a way to make that catch, then everyone talks about, oh man, what a performance Kyler Murray had. He was great once again last night. That's why when evaluating players and how they did in the preseason, I won't even really take any account into how good they did statistics wise. I kind of look at to see how good of throws they made and how good they played in general. I mean, statistics are already misleading, but they become even more misleading when you're talking about 8 throws. It's just too small of a sample size, but it should be mentioned, he did have a couple of good throws too. It wasn't all just misfires. Like on this one, it's going to be a cover one hole, but what the Raiders are going to do is they're actually going to have a defensive end be playing man coverage against a tight end, and they'll also have a linebacker run up to try to rush Kyler Murray, just kind of as a way to try to fool the offensive line, and hopefully they'll be able to create some pressure. But for Murray, that's okay, as he's going to have a receiver run a curl route right there on the bottom half of the screen, which is once again another great way to be the cover one hole. If Murray can time this one perfectly so that it hits his receiver right after he cuts, it can even be a first down. This is definitely a good situation and a good route to throw against in this situation. And for Murray, he's going to take a shot back, and he makes a great throw, and they're able to not quite pick up the first down, but they got a good gain on that one. If you're a Cardinals fan, I mean, that's what you like to see. Make those small throws. That's what you really need to do if you're going to be a good quarterback in this league. I don't care so much about the 50-yard bombs. Yes, those are fun, but I want you to make those throws. I know he can run outside the pocket, but more often than not, you are going to have to basically stay where you're at and make a throw from that way, and Murray can make those types of plays. And again, one of those things I do say about the preseason is I care less about what you're doing poorly and more about what you're doing well. Because you are going to try new things in the preseason just to see what you can and can't get away with. But if you're finding out you can get away with certain throws, or that you can make certain throws, then you'll know going into the regular season, okay, this is something I can do. Murray now knows what he has to work on to a degree. He knows he has to get the timing down with a couple of his receivers on some of these deeper throws. Maybe he has to put a little bit more air under some of these throws. That's something he now knows he has to work on. But also being able to make those short to medium range throws, he knows that's not something he has to work on, so he doesn't have to spend as much time working on it. The preseason isn't for looking good, the preseason is for getting better, and I do think Kyler Murray has gotten a lot of information from this preseason game, and he could get a lot better. But anyways, let's talk about what everyone wants to talk about, and that's the fact that the offensive line was terrible. And one of the biggest worries the Cardinals have going into 2019, actually probably the biggest worry, is the offensive line. But again, to me what I saw was just a unit that doesn't know how to work together just yet. That's what I saw, and I'll show you what I mean with this play. Really, what you're going to take a look at is those two Oakland Raiders right there. That's the key point of this play. Not just because they're both going to be blitzing, but they're also going to be blitzing by going over the right tackle over there. And it also should be mentioned, this will not be a 6-man rush, this is actually a 5-man rush. The defensive end on the bottom half of the screen will be dropping back into coverage. And it also should be mentioned that Arizona has a halfback blocking in this game. So, it's not a terrible situation. I mean, at the end of the day, you have 6 people that are going to be blocking, and there's going to be a 5-man rush. So you should still be okay. But of course, the problem is that 4 out of the 5 of those Oakland Raiders are going to be rushing the quarterback to the right side of the center. And this play is going to work out perfectly, and it's going to be bad news for the Arizona Cardinals offensive line. Now, one thing you could say about Murray here is that there is Fitzgerald, who is kind of a little bit open, maybe right over there. It's kind of hard to see. There's 2 Raiders that are trying to get over and knock his head off, so he definitely is in a little bit of trouble. Maybe he should make that throw. Instead, what he's going to do is he's going to run over and then slide. He only loses the yard. That's not a bad situation to do there either. You got to minimize your bad plays and maximize your good plays, and that's a good job of minimizing a bad play. You only lost 1 yard, whereas many quarterbacks would have lost 8 yards on that play. So, while it wasn't a great play from the Cardinals offense as a whole, it was a pretty good job by Murray. And also should be mentioned that it wasn't a bad physical play by the Cardinals. I mean, this isn't offensive lineman just getting beat. This is offensive lineman getting outsmarted. It seemed like Cliff Kingsbury was very against putting a tight end out there to kind of help out his quarterback a little bit. I'm not really sure why he didn't put a tight end out there. My assumption is that he just has the plays that he already wants to see Kyler Murray do, and he's not going to pay too much attention to what the Raiders are doing. But in a regular season game, you would put a tight end out there, you would have a halfback primarily blocking, and you would try to figure out ways to kind of not allow the pressure to get to you as much. But again, it really did have some key impacts. Like on this one, basically the same thing is going to happen, where they're going to have 2 Raiders basically just blitz on the bottom half of the screen right there, and only the left tackle can make a block here. Honestly, you could also put some blame into Kyler Murray on this one. You have to be prepared for anything when the Raiders are doing this, especially when they're having so much success in getting to you. So for Murray, kind of be a field general here. Go up to your tackles and say, no matter what, make sure you're blocking the guy furthest to the outside. Always make sure you're keeping everything to your inside of you. Or, you know, maybe in a situation like this, you tell your halfback to go to the bottom half of the screen of you as opposed to him being at the top half of the screen of you. And then you tell your left tackle, okay, don't worry about the guy who's all the way on the edge, but make sure you're blocking the guy second closest to the edge. And then if the guy who's on the edge is rushing, then I'll just have my halfback block him and who cares? You know, there are things you can do to make sure everybody is blocked, but, you know, Kyler Murray and the entire offensive coaching staff just wasn't doing them that game. Again, I don't know if they just wanted to see how Murray would handle under the pressure, but either way, I mean, those are things you would want to see them do in a regular season game that they didn't do in this preseason game. And so as you see, Oakland is going to have a man go straight to Murray. There's nothing he can do at this point. And so for Murray, what do you do in this situation? Well, just go down. Like, I like that. I know it ended up being a safety. I don't care. I'd rather you take a safety in the preseason than take a big hit. These plays are not just the offensive line lacking the talent. I do think the offensive line is one of the least talented units in the league, but again, this is kind of a coaching thing more than anything. I have to assume that it's intentional, that Kingsbury was kind of just waiting to see how these things would work out, but the fact of the matter is, if you're going to go 4 wide a lot, and you're not going to bring tight ends in, you're not going to have your halfback be blocking primarily, well then these things are going to happen. Unless you have a really good offensive line, guys are going to find ways to scheme to get around you guys. It's just what's going to happen. There's also this one where it's kind of going to be a well-executed play, but also a bit of a lack of awareness on the offensive line. The way it's going to work is that a defensive tackle is going to go to the left side of the Cardinals' left guard. The idea is that the guard will then move up to the top half of the screen to make sure that he's blocking him, and then the edge rusher can simply run over to the right side of that left guard and get a straight shot to Murray. It's something you'll see fairly often, and it's going to work out very well for the Oakland Raiders. I mean, look at that. I mean, he just got straight by there. For Arizona, I'm sorry, 53 there, their center, I mean, you got to be able to find a way to make that block. I mean, you could put it on the guard if you want to, but personally, I blame the center, which is A.Q. Shipley. And Shipley, when healthy, could actually be one of their better offensive linemen, actually. I mean, he didn't play at all in 2018, but, you know, we'll see how he does in 2019. And you could also blame the guard for not getting back over and realizing, okay, I do have to make this block. And honestly, you could also blame Murray for not saying, hey, this is what we do in this situation. I mean, when you're an offensive line, you have to know what you're going to do in every single situation. And they just didn't. They look lost a lot of the times out there. I'm sure it was frustrating for Murray, but I mean, you know, you gotta find ways to figure that out. But there is one thing I liked about this from Murray, and take a look at what's going to end up happening. He rolls out of the pocket, and again, there's still pressure, and actually there's going to be nobody open downfield. So what is he going to do? Throws the ball away. I mean, that's perfect. That's what you do in that situation. Good play, Kyler Murray. I like that a lot. I mean, that's just what you like to see. Looks downfield. Oh, okay, nothing open. All right, I'll throw the ball away. That's what you want to see. Again, it's minimizing your bad plays. He minimized a bad play by the Cardinals on that one. That's what you like to see, and honestly, that's why I'm not worried about Kyler Murray at all. I'm worried about the Cardinals for sure, but I'm not any more worried or any less worried about the Cardinals than I already was going into week 1. You know, what did we learn about the Arizona Cardinals in the second preseason game that we didn't already know about the Cardinals? Did we learn the offensive line could use some talent? No, we already knew that. Did we learn Kyler Murray will miss an occasional throw? Again, we knew he wasn't going to be perfect. That's not a surprise. And if you actually watch the games, I thought he played fine. You know, could have been better here and there, but was far from a disaster by any means. But hey, that's just my opinion. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. I like hearing from you guys. And as always, thanks for watching.